As part of our ongoing September series on 9/11 focused content, in this video we'll be talking about 9/11 mysteries that you didn't want to know about, because they will leave you with more questions than answers. Our heart goes out to all of those affected by 9/11 all those years ago, and those who are still affected by it to this very day. The Odigo instant message warning. In the early hours of September 11, 2001, two employees at Odigo, a now defunct Israeli instant messaging company, were working in the company's office in Herzliya, Pitua, near Tel Aviv. Approximately 2 hours before the first plane struck the World Trade Center, they received an anonymous, hostile instant message in English, warning that a terrorist attack was imminent. The message contained a vague threat, but did not specify where the attack would take place. It ended with an anti-Semitic slur. The employees did not immediately inform their employer. They only notified company management after learning about the attacks from the news. The company then traced the message's IP address and passed the information to the FBI for further investigation. Although because the Odigo platform used an anonymous chat feature, they could not identify the origin of the message. Although this incident was widely reported shortly after the attacks by outlets such as the Washington Post, Haaretz, and CNN, no solid evidence emerged to suggest that the message contained any actionable or specific advanced knowledge of the World Trade Center attack. Odigo's vice president for sales and marketing later emphasized that the message did not mention the United States or New York, and its connection to the events remained speculative and arguably coincidental. Over time, conspiracy theories arose around this incident, with some claiming that thousands of Israelis were warned to stay away from work that day, and that Odigo's systems were used to orchestrate forewarnings for Jewish individuals in New York. One version of the story asserted that 4,000 Israelis had been tipped off not to go to work at the World Trade Center, implying widespread prior knowledge. Although many say that this premise conflated two separate, unrelated news stories, one involving the Odigo message to the two employees, while the other involved a report from the Jerusalem Post indicating that the Israeli Foreign Ministry had received the names of about 4,000 Israelis believed to have been near the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. However, this was not an alert to warn individuals. It was merely social reporting in the aftermath of the attacks. Reliable sources indicate that approximately 270 to 400 Jewish individuals died in the attacks, a number proportionate to the Jewish population in New York City, showing no unusual pattern. The 9/11 Commission report and related investigations found no factual basis for claims of advanced warnings targeting any specific group. So is this just a strange coincidence, or is there more to this story? Over time, the incident has been misrepresented in various conspiracies, but the truth is, the message was indeed sent, and the warning was given, but by whom is still unknown. The 9/11 Gold Vault. Following the 9/11 attacks, one of the lesser-known aspects of the World Trade Center story involved the gold reserves held in the vaults underneath the complex. These vaults were operated by the COMEX Metals Trading Division of the New York Mercantile Exchange, and were utilized by banks such as HSBC and the Bank of Nova Scotia. Reports suggest that these vaults contained billions of dollars worth of precious metals, including gold and silver, much of which backed international trading operations. But here's where things get mysterious. In the days after the tower's collapse, workers and firefighters discovered that the vaults had become a point of interest beyond the official recovery efforts. Although several $100 million worth of gold was later accounted for and transported from the site under heavy security, rumors began circulating that a portion of the reserves had been quietly removed prior to the attacks. This claim has been repeated in alternative histories about 9/11. Eyewitness accounts from firefighters added to this mystery. They reported abnormal signs around the entrance to one of the underground storage areas, describing scorch marks and what appeared to be evidence of cutting attempts on the vault doors in the aftermath of 9/11, damage that had not been visible prior to the building's collapse. Given that these vaults were designed to withstand extreme conditions, this raised unsettling questions about whether someone had attempted to force entry during the chaotic hours after the disaster, taking advantage of the confusion at Ground Zero. The official narrative states that the precious metals were recovered under supervision in late October 2001, when recovery crews escorted armoured trucks carrying the bullion away from the site. However, lingering questions about missing gold, the timing of potential movements before the attacks, and the unexplained signs of attempted access after the collapse continue to fuel speculation. For many, the story of the gold vaults beneath the World Trade Center remains one of the enduring mysteries surrounding that day. Insider trading. In the days leading up to the September 11, 2001 attacks, financial markets exhibited unusual trading activity that later prompted extensive investigation. Most attention was directed towards a significant increase in the volume of put options, which are financial instruments that profit when a stock price declines, placed on the stocks of United Airlines and American Airlines, the two carriers whose planes were hijacked. On September 6th, an unusually high number of put options were purchased for United Airlines, and on September 10th, a similar surge was observed in trades concerning American Airlines. Comparable patterns were also noted in companies significantly affected by the attacks, including major insurers and financial institutions such as Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch, both of which had offices in the World Trade Center. The unusual nature of these transactions quickly attracted scrutiny, and after the attacks, the Securities and Exchange Commission, in collaboration with the FBI and other agencies, initiated a sweeping investigation to determine whether the trades were connected to advance knowledge of the plot. Millions of transactions were analyzed, and brokers and traders were interviewed. The matter was later addressed in the official 9/11 Commission report. The investigations acknowledged that the trading volumes were indeed highly irregular, but they concluded that they were not linked to Al-Qaeda or individuals with prior knowledge of the attacks. Instead, investigators traced the trades back to institutional investors and hedge funds with no connections to terrorism. Many of these investors were reportedly responding to broader market concerns and pessimistic analysis of the airline industry, which had already been under significant financial strain in the months preceding September. Despite the official findings, many still argue that the systematic anomalies in the trading data are pronounced enough that they cannot be entirely dismissed as coincidence. Academic papers and market studies continue to debate whether these patterns align with normal trading behavior, and critics of the investigations have suggested that the inquiries lacked transparency. Nevertheless, no evidence has ever been presented that directly links the pre-9/11 trades to the terrorist network behind the attacks. The unusual trading is undeniable, and its implications remain debated. The vanishing black boxes. The fate of the black boxes from the two planes that struck the Twin Towers remains one of the many unresolved mysteries of that day. Official investigations concluded that no usable flight data recorders were recovered from American Airlines Flight 11 or United Airlines Flight 175 at Ground Zero. The FBI confirmed this position, stating that if any fragments had been found, they were too damaged to be of value. This explanation has always been met with some skepticism, as black boxes are specifically designed to endure catastrophic impacts and extreme heat. In contrast, recorders from other 9/11 crash sites, such as Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, were successfully recovered. Despite the official account, a different narrative has emerged among some of the people who worked in the wreckage. Several firefighters and recovery workers later testified that they found black boxes at Ground Zero and turned them over to federal agents. According to these accounts, the devices were removed quickly and no further information was provided about them. Such testimonies directly contradict the official line, and while it's possible that what was found was misidentified debris, those who handled the objects believe that they were flight recorders. It's no surprise that this discrepancy has fueled speculation for many years. One possibility is that the recorders were so badly destroyed in the collapses that only fragments remained, leading to confusion during the recovery efforts about complete boxes being found. Another possibility, favoured by those skeptical of the official version, is that the recorders were indeed recovered intact, but withheld from the public for reasons that remain unclear. If this is the case, it raises difficult questions about what information might have been contained in those boxes, and why authorities might choose to suppress that information. 2 decades later, the truth still remains elusive. No photographs, logs, or official acknowledgements have surfaced to confirm the firefighters' claims, and government agencies have maintained their position that no usable black boxes from the Twin Towers were ever recovered. What lingers is simply a story caught between conflicting testimonies and official silence. Whether they were destroyed in the collapse or quietly taken away, the missing black boxes serve as a reminder of how much about that day remains out of reach, and why 9/11 continues to generate questions that may never be fully answered. The 5 dancing Israelis. In the aftermath of the attacks, 5 Israeli nationals were detained in New Jersey after witnesses reported seeing them on the roof of a van, filming the burning World Trade Center towers and appearing to celebrate. A woman who observed them from her apartment later told investigators that their behavior seemed strange, noting that they looked happy rather than shocked. Authorities quickly traced the van to a company called Urban Moving Systems, a moving business based in New Jersey and owned by an Israeli named Dominic Sutter. Later that day, police stopped the van near Giants Stadium and detained the 5 men at gunpoint. Inside the vehicle, investigators found around $4,700 in cash, multiple passports, and a box cutter. While the box cutter alarmed the police, it was also a common tool used in moving work. The men, identified as Sivan and Paul Kurzberg, Omer Marmari, Yaron Shmuel, and Odin Elner, were held for more than 2 months, interrogated extensively, and subject to polygraph testing. Ultimately, they were deported back to Israel after signing statements admitting to immigration violations, specifically overstaying their visas and working without proper authorization. The FBI later reviewed the case and concluded that the men had no foreknowledge of the attacks and were not engaged in any clandestine intelligence activities in the United States. Declassified reports emphasized that neither the New York nor the Newark divisions found evidence linking the men to terrorism or espionage. Despite this official conclusion, the incident fueled years of speculation and conspiracy theories. Some writers and commenters suggest that the men might have been tied to Israeli intelligence or had prior knowledge of the attacks, but these claims have never been substantiated by credible evidence. Many believe that the idea that some foreign intelligence service may have had advanced knowledge of the attacks. This interpretation was amplified by the secrecy surrounding the FBI's investigation and the fact that many of the related files were kept classified or heavily redacted. In American mainstream media, the case received limited coverage. Outlets such as ABC News reported on the arrests, noting that the FBI had investigated but found no evidence of prior knowledge. However, because the story was unusual and the details seemed strange, such as the large amounts of cash, multiple passports, and the van linked to a moving company, it continued to attract speculation. Some investigative journalists, particularly in the dependent or alternative outlets, revised the story in the following years, pointing to gaps in the official narrative as reasons for doubt. Over time, this story has persisted as one of the most frequently cited anomalies surrounding 9/11. Its endurance is attributed to the combination of eyewitness testimony describing their unusual behavior, the presence of circumstantial details that appeared suspicious when stripped of context, and the government's limited transparency. This one is strange, and the question remains unanswered. Why were they celebrating the worst terrorist attack in history and the deaths of 3,000 mostly innocent people? And what would they have to say about themselves if they were interviewed today? So, that's it for this video. Once again, our heart goes out to all of those affected by 9/11. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.